The story opens on Outpost Zenith, a remote true station orbiting a lifeless dwarf planet at the edge of contested space, where humanity and the Valkyrie sovereignty maintain their fragile peace agreement. We meet Thomas Rivera, a maintenance technician whose job involves keeping the station's aging life support systems, communication arrays, and structural integrity fields operational. Thomas is practical, quietly competent, and exhausted. The station is chronically understaffed, and he's been pulling double shifts for weeks to keep critical systems running. The Valkyrie are an elegant species with pearlescent skin that shifts colors with emotion, long graceful ears that track sounds with predatory precision, and elaborate cultural protocols around trust, vulnerability, and intimate bonds. Their society is matriarchal and hierarchical, with complex rules governing who may witness another in moments of vulnerability. The station houses minimal personnel, perhaps 30 humans and 20 Valkyrie, all carefully selected for tolerance and professionalism. The war ended 6 months ago, but the peace is fragile, maintained through rigid protocols and careful distance between species. Thomas has minimal contact with Valkyrie personnel beyond professional necessity. His work keeps him in maintenance tunnels and engineering spaces, away from the diplomatic tensions that simmer in the station's command levels. He's aware of Chief Liaison Naira Thel, a Valkyrie diplomat who coordinates between species with icy efficiency, but they've never spoken beyond formal greetings. What Thomas doesn't know is that Naira has been watching him for months, observing how he works with quiet dedication, how he treats malfunctioning equipment with patient problem-solving rather than frustration, how he maintains professionalism even when exhausted. On a night when Thomas finally reaches his quarters after a 16-hour shift repairing critical atmospheric processors, he collapses into his bunk, barely managing to remove his work uniform. He's asleep within minutes, his body demanding rest his schedule rarely permits. He wakes to gentle pressure on his shoulder and a soft voice speaking accented human language. "Thomas Rivera, I apologize for the intrusion. Can you please clean me, human?" He opens his eyes to find Chief Liaison Naira Thel kneeling beside his bunk, her pearlescent skin cycling through colors his cultural database struggles to interpret. She's wearing what appears to be ceremonial robes rather than her usual formal attire, and her long ears are tilted at angles that suggest both determination and vulnerability. Thomas's exhausted brain takes several seconds to process that a high-ranking Valkyrie diplomat has somehow entered his locked quarters in the middle of the night and is asking him for cleaning services. The absurdity wars with concern. Is this some kind of diplomatic emergency, a cultural misunderstanding, a very strange dream? Thomas sits up slowly, trying to organize his thoughts through the fog of exhaustion. Chief Liaison Thel, how did you get in here? Are you all right? Do you need medical assistance? Naira's skin shifts through colors that his translation implant tags as earnest sincerity mixed with apprehension. I am well. I entered using administrative override codes. Thomas Rivera, I am asking you to perform the renewal rite. In your language, this translates poorly as cleaning, but the meaning is deeper. I am requesting you witness me in vulnerable state and help me cleanse accumulated burdens. This is sacred trust among my people. Thomas's cultural training, limited as it is, starts providing context. The Valkyrie have elaborate protocols around vulnerability and trust. Their pearlescent skin apparently absorbs environmental residue, both physical and what they describe as spiritual or emotional, that accumulates over time. The renewal rite involves another person helping to cleanse this accumulation, witnessing the individual in a state of complete vulnerability. It's not about hygiene in any practical sense. It's about trust, about allowing another to see you stripped of all defenses and social armor. And according to Valkyrie law, such a request can only be made to someone the asker trusts absolutely, typically family members or chosen consorts. By asking Thomas to perform this rite, Naira has just designated him as consort witness, which carries profound legal and social implications in Valkyrie culture. Thomas's exhausted brain finally catches up with what's happening. Chief Liaison, I don't think you understand. I'm a maintenance technician. I'm not qualified for diplomatic protocols or cultural ceremonies. You should be asking someone from the Valkyrie delegation, someone who understands. I understand perfectly, Naira interrupts, her skin flashing colors that suggest firm resolve. I am asking you specifically, Thomas Rivera, because you are the only person on this station I trust completely. I have observed you for months. You are honest in ways my own people have forgotten. You work without seeking recognition, solve problems without political calculation, and treat broken things with more care than most treat living beings. These qualities make you worthy of witnessing my vulnerability. But I don't know how to perform this right. I'll do it wrong and offend you or your culture. I will guide you through the process. The rite itself is less important than the trust it represents. Will you accept, Thomas Rivera? Will you witness my renewal? Thomas looks at her, really looks at her for the first time beyond formal professional distance. Her pearlescent skin is cycling through colors that his implant translates as hope mixed with fear of rejection. Her long ears are tilted in positions suggesting she's braced for refusal, but hoping desperately for acceptance. He doesn't understand all the cultural implications, but he recognizes someone asking for help in the only way they know how. Yes, he says quietly, I'll help, just tell me what to do. Relief crashes across Naira's features, her skin brightening with colors that suggest profound gratitude. Thank you. The rite must be performed properly, which requires ritual cleansing materials. She produces a small case containing what appears to be cloths, oils, and implements whose purposes Thomas can't immediately identify. The renewal rite has 3 stages: physical cleansing to remove environmental accumulation, emotional witnessing to acknowledge burdens carried, and symbolic rebirth through water. You will help with all 3. She begins removing her ceremonial robes with unself-conscious dignity, and Thomas's sleep-deprived brain fully comprehends that he's about to participate in something far more intimate than he'd initially understood. But Naira's trust is palpable, her vulnerability absolute, and backing out now would be a rejection of catastrophic proportions. The rite proceeds with Thomas following Naira's careful instructions. He uses the ritual cloths and oils to cleanse her pearlescent skin, which apparently accumulates both physical residue and what the Valkyrie describe as emotional spiritual impressions from interactions and environments. The process is intimate but not sexual, more like a trust exercise of profound depth, where Thomas must touch someone who's made herself completely vulnerable to him while maintaining the reverence the rite demands. As he works, Naira speaks quietly about the burden she carries, the weight of maintaining peace between species who barely trust each other, the isolation of being diplomat whose own people view her as too sympathetic to humans, the exhaustion of constantly mediating between factions who'd rather restart the war than admit they might have been wrong. Thomas listens without judgment, his maintenance technician's patience serving him well as he witnesses someone else's accumulated stress much as he diagnoses malfunctioning equipment, with attention, care, and desire to fix what's broken. The final stage requires water, which Thomas improvises using his quarter's small hygiene facility. As he helps Naira through the symbolic rebirth cleansing, he realizes that something has fundamentally shifted between them, a bond created not through passion, but through vulnerability and trust offered and accepted. When the rite concludes, Naira dresses in fresh robes she'd brought with her, her pearlescent skin now glowing with colors his implant tags as peace and renewal. Thank you, Thomas Rivera. You have witnessed my vulnerability with honor. Under Valkyrie law, you are now recognized as my consort witness, which grants you certain rights and responsibilities. What kind of rights? Access to my lineage archives, knowledge of political situations I'm authorized to share, legal standing in disputes involving my person or honor, and responsibilities to defend the bond we've formed, to witness my renewal when requested, to stand beside me in formal contexts where consort presence is required. Thomas's exhausted brain tries to process this. I think maybe we should have discussed all these implications before I agreed to help. Would you have refused if you'd known? He considers this honestly. Probably not. You needed help, and I'm apparently constitutionally incapable of refusing when someone asks me to fix something broken, even if that something is diplomatic and cultural rather than mechanical. Naira's skin brightens with colors that might be affection. That is why I chose you, Thomas Rivera. You see things that need repair and you repair them, regardless of whether they're your responsibility. This quality is rare and precious. She stands to leave, then pauses. You should know, by accepting the renewal right, you've been automatically registered in Valkyrie legal systems as my consort witness. Station sensors recorded my entry to your quarters, my request, and your acceptance. Multiple Valkyrie factions will learn of this within hours. Some will be supportive. Others will attempt to nullify the bond or discredit one or both of us. I apologize for the complications this will bring to your life. Wait, you're saying this is going to become a political issue. This already is a political issue. That's partially why I requested the right from you rather than someone within Valkyrie delegation. I needed a consort witness I could trust absolutely, without political entanglements. You were the only option. After she leaves, Thomas sits on his bunk trying to comprehend that his quiet, isolated life as a maintenance technician has just become entangled with diplomatic protocols he doesn't understand and political factions he didn't know existed. He falls back asleep from sheer exhaustion, his dreams filled with pearlescent skin shifting colors, and the sense that he stumbled into something far more complex than repairing life support systems. Thomas wakes to his comm unit exploding with urgent messages. Station Commander Hayes wants to see him immediately. Dr. Sarah Park, the human cultural liaison, is requesting emergency consultation. And there are approximately 15 messages from various Valkyrie officials he doesn't recognize, all marked as urgent. He arrives at Commander Hayes' office to find it already crowded. Hayes sits behind her desk looking like she hasn't slept. Dr. Park paces while reviewing holographic displays of Valkyrie cultural protocols, and several senior human officers stand with expressions suggesting they're witnessing a disaster in slow motion. Technician Rivera, Hayes says with dangerous calm, explain to me how you became consort witness to Chief Liaison Naira overnight. Thomas explains as clearly as his still exhausted brain allows. Naira entered his quarters, requested help with what she called the renewal right. He agreed without fully understanding implications, and apparently that automatically bonded them under Valkyrie law. Dr. Park pulls up legal texts. The renewal rite is one of the most sacred Valkyrie ceremonies. It's only performed between individuals with absolute trust, typically family or chosen consorts. By requesting it from you and you accepting, Chief Liaison Thel has designated you as her consort witness, which grants you legal standing in Valkyrie society far above what your rank should permit. What kind of legal standing? Access to classified archives, insider knowledge of political situations, the right to speak on her behalf in certain contexts. You're essentially now considered part of her household in Valkyrie legal terms. One of the senior officers interrupts. This is a security nightmare. A maintenance technician with no diplomatic training now has access to sensitive Valkyrie information. That's a compromise waiting to happen. I didn't ask for this, Thomas protests. She needed help. I helped. I didn't know it would create legal complications. That's the problem, Hayes says. You helped without understanding what you were agreeing to. Now we're dealing with political fallout. Dr. Park continues scrolling through data. It gets more complex. Several conservative Valkyrie factions are already filing formal challenges to the bond's validity, claiming either coercion or improper procedure. Progressive factions are defending it, and there are rumors that Chief Liaison Thel had specific political reasons for choosing a human consort witness rather than someone from her own delegation. What political reasons? That's what we're trying to determine. But Rivera, you should know, your new legal status gives you access to Valkyrie archives that might contain information some factions want to keep hidden. That makes you valuable and vulnerable simultaneously. Thomas is escorted to a secured briefing room where he's given emergency crash course on Valkyrie political structures, the significance of the renewal right, and the implications of his new status. What emerges is concerning. Chief Liaison Nyra Thel is from a progressive Valkyrie house that supported the peace treaty over continued war. Conservative factions who wanted to continue fighting have been looking for ways to discredit her and undermine the truce. By forming a bond with a human, especially through something as sacred as the renewal right, Nyra has made herself vulnerable to accusations of being too sympathetic to humanity, of betraying Valkyrie cultural values, of inappropriate intimacy with former enemies. So she's going to be attacked politically because she trusted me? Thomas asks. Almost certainly, Dr. Park confirms. But there's another angle, your new access to her lineage archives. If she chose you specifically knowing you'd gain that access, she might be trying to show you something. Information that conservative factions don't want revealed. Like what? That's what you need to find out. The archives are available to you now through station systems. Whatever she wants you to see, she's gambling that you'll find it and understand its significance. Thomas spends hours navigating Valkyrie archive systems he's now authorized to access. The information is vast and mostly incomprehensible without cultural context. But his maintenance technician's instincts, honed from years of troubleshooting complex systems, help him identify patterns and anomalies. He finds discrepancies in official war records versus archived communications, evidence that certain Valkyrie officials were deliberately prolonging the conflict for profit, proof that some of the incidents that nearly broke the truce were orchestrated by conservative factions who wanted the war to restart, and communications suggesting a conspiracy involving both human and Valkyrie elements who benefit from ongoing hostilities. This is what Nyra wanted him to find, evidence of corruption so damaging that she couldn't risk sharing it with anyone in her own delegation without being silenced. By making Thomas her consort witness and giving him legal access to the archives, she's created a witness outside the normal political structures who can reveal the truth. But conservative factions are already moving against them. Formal challenges to the bond's validity are filed. Accusations emerge claiming Thomas coerced Nyra or that she was mentally compromised when requesting the right. Human officials begin questioning whether Thomas should maintain his new status or if he should renounce the bond for security reasons. The pressure intensifies when Thomas receives a private communication from Nyra explaining her reasoning. She discovered the conspiracy months ago, but had no way to expose it without being discredited or eliminated. By forming a bond with someone outside Valkyrie political structures, someone she'd observed long enough to trust completely, she created a path for the truth to emerge. But doing so put Thomas in danger, made him a target for the same factions that want her silenced. "I apologize for using you this way," her message says. "But you were the only person I trusted to see the truth and act on it without political calculation. The conspirators benefit from ongoing conflict between our species. If the truce collapses, they profit while our peoples suffer. You have the evidence now. What you do with it will determine whether the peace survives or if we return to war that serves only those who exploit it." Thomas realizes he's become central figure in something far larger than himself, a conspiracy that crosses species boundaries, threatens the fragile peace, and has already cost lives. His natural instinct is to retreat to the safety of his maintenance duties, but Nyra's trust and the weight of evidence he's discovered make retreat impossible. The chapter culminates with conservative Valkyrie officials demanding Thomas submit to formal interrogation about the renewal rite, claiming they need to verify it was performed correctly and willingly. Dr. Park warns this is actually a trap. They'll use the interrogation to discredit both Thomas and Naira while searching for whether he's discovered the archived evidence. Thomas faces a choice: submit to the interrogation and risk the truth being suppressed, or refuse and be accused of hiding impropriety. He chooses a third option. He'll attend the interrogation but bring the evidence publicly, forcing the conspirators to address their own corruption rather than focusing on whether the renewal rite was properly performed. The formal interrogation is conducted in the station's main conference chamber, with representatives from both human and Valkyrie governments present. Conservative Valkyrie officials dominate the proceedings, their questions designed to make the renewal rite sound inappropriate or coerced. They focus on Thomas's lack of cultural training, the late-night timing, the intimate nature of the rite, trying to frame it as either human manipulation of a vulnerable Valkyrie or Naira's compromised judgment. Thomas answers their questions directly, maintaining the patient tone he'd use explaining technical problems to non-technical personnel. Yes, he had limited cultural knowledge. Yes, the timing was unusual. Yes, the rite was intimate in nature. But none of that changes that Naira made her request clearly, he accepted willingly, and the bond was formed according to proper Valkyrie protocols as she'd guided him through them. But why would Chief Liaison choose a human maintenance technician as consort witness? One conservative official demands. Surely someone from her own delegation would have been more appropriate. You'd have to ask her, Thomas replies. But I can tell you why I accepted. Because someone asked me for help and hidden in obscure archive sections that only someone with consort witness access could find. This is why Chief Liaison chose me, Thomas says, his voice cutting through the chaos. Not because I'm skilled at diplomacy or politics, but because I'm good at finding problems in complex systems and showing them to people who can fix them. She discovered corruption she couldn't expose from within her own political structures without being silenced. So she gave access to someone outside those structures, trusting I'd find the truth and make it public. Naira, who's been silently observing the interrogation, finally speaks. Thomas Rivera is correct. I requested the renewal rite from him specifically because I trusted him to witness not just my personal vulnerability, but the truth buried in my archives. The conspirators he's exposed have been working to undermine the peace treaty, profiting from ongoing hostilities while both our species suffer. That is the real scandal here, not whether my choice of consort witness was conventional. The evidence forces serious investigation. Conservative officials who were leading the interrogation find themselves suddenly under scrutiny. Human and Valkyrie security services begin coordinating to trace the conspiracy's full extent. The focus shifts from whether Thomas and Naira's bond was appropriate to whether the peace treaty has been deliberately sabotaged by elements from both species. But the conspirators don't accept exposure quietly. That night, as Thomas returns to his quarters, he's intercepted by individuals who make it clear they want both the evidence and his silence. The confrontation turns violent. Thomas isn't trained for combat, but his maintenance experience helps him improvise, using station architecture and emergency protocols to call for help while avoiding his attackers. Naira arrives with station security, her pearlescent skin flashing colors that suggest protective fury. She places herself between Thomas and the attackers, invoking Valkyrie law that anyone threatening her consort witness is threatening her directly, an offense carrying severe penalties. The attackers are detained, but the message is clear. Exposing the conspiracy has made Thomas and Naira targets for those who benefit from ongoing conflict. The investigation that follows reveals the conspiracy's extent: years of deliberate sabotage, orchestrated incidents, and profiteering by factions from both species who discovered they could maintain power and wealth if humanity and the Valkyrie remained enemies. The evidence Thomas accessed proves extensive enough that both governments are forced to act, prosecuting conspirators and implementing reforms to prevent similar corruption. But the personal cost is significant. Both Thomas and Naira face ongoing scrutiny from elements who view their bond as inappropriate regardless of the corruption it exposed. Conservative Valkyrie continue claiming Naira betrayed her culture by trusting a human so completely. Some human personnel question whether Thomas's judgment was compromised by forming such an intimate bond with former enemies. The political pressure forces difficult conversations. In a private moment after the immediate crisis, Thomas and Naira confront what they've become to each other, consort witnesses by Valkyrie law, but also people who have been through something intensely personal and can't quite define their relationship in conventional terms. Do you regret accepting the renewal rite? Naira asks, her skin cycling through colors that suggest she's braced for painful honesty. I regret that it put you in danger, Thomas replies. I don't regret helping you when you asked. And I don't regret that we exposed corruption that was threatening the peace. But I'm still a maintenance technician who's more comfortable fixing broken equipment than navigating political consequences. Yet you've navigated them with more integrity than most trained diplomats. I just told the truth and showed evidence. That's not diplomacy, that's basic honesty, which is precisely why I trusted you. Her ears tilt in angles his cultural understanding now recognizes as affection. Thomas Rivera, you are terrible at political maneuvering and completely incompetent at self-preservation. These qualities make you remarkable. That's the strangest compliment I've ever received. It's meant sincerely. My culture values cunning and strategic positioning. Sometimes we value them so much we forget the importance of simply being honest and doing what's right regardless of political cost. You remind me that these simpler virtues matter. They negotiate new boundaries for their relationship. The consort-witness bond remains legally valid. Thomas maintains his archive access and legal standing in Valkyrie systems. But they agree this doesn't obligate them to any specific form of romantic or intimate relationship beyond what they both freely choose. The bond was formed through trust and vulnerability, and they'll honor it by continuing to trust each other while figuring out what they want their relationship to be. I will ask for renewal rights in the future, Naira says. When burdens accumulate and I need someone to witness my vulnerability, is that acceptable? Yes. Just maybe warn me more than 10 minutes in advance next time. I will attempt to provide at least 20 minutes notice. Your humor is getting more sarcastic the longer you spend around humans. I consider that an improvement. Her skin brightens with colors that definitely indicate amusement. You are changing me, Thomas Rivera, making me less rigid, more willing to trust instinct over protocol. You're changing me too, making me realize that sometimes fixing what's broken means getting involved in things beyond my job description. The story concludes several months later, with Outpost Zenith transformed from purely functional truce station into something more, an actual cooperative enterprise where humans and Valkyrie work together rather than merely coexisting. The conspiracy's exposure has forced both governments to reform how they monitor officials and investigate corruption. The peace treaty is strengthened by knowledge that both species have internal factions more interested in conflict than cooperation. Thomas continues his maintenance duties, but he's also recognized as consort witness to a senior Valkyrie diplomat, giving him informal influence he never sought but uses carefully when needed. He attends diplomatic functions when Naira requires his presence, standing beside her as formal consort witness, while remaining uncomfortable in fancy settings. Naira continues her diplomatic work with renewed purpose, her choice of human consort witness having proven her commitment to genuine peace rather than political posturing. She requests renewal rights every few months, and Thomas witnesses her vulnerability with the same patient care he applies to malfunctioning equipment, seeing what needs attention, addressing it without judgment, helping her find balance when political pressures accumulate. Their relationship remains difficult to categorize, not quite romantic in conventional sense, not merely professional, but something deeper built on witnessed vulnerability and mutual trust. Other station personnel watch them navigating this undefined space, some with approval, others with confusion, but all recognizing that something genuine has formed between two people from species that were shooting at each other just a year ago. In the story's final scene, Thomas is working late in a maintenance tunnel, repairing environmental controls that regulate atmospheric pressure across species-specific sections. Naira finds him there, having used her administrative access to track him down. "I need your help," she says simply. Thomas sets down his tools. "Renewal right, eventually. But first, I need you to look at some new archive materials I've discovered. There are more inconsistencies, possible corruption in supply chain management. I don't trust anyone in official channels to investigate without bias. So you want me to apply my finding problems in complex systems skills to another potential conspiracy?" "Yes. Is that acceptable?" Thomas considers the comfortable routine of his maintenance duties, the complicated political waters he'd be wading into, and the trust evident in Naira's request that he help her uncover truth others want hidden. 20 minutes notice would still be nice, he says. "But yes, show me what you found." They sit together in the maintenance tunnel, reviewing data on a portable terminal, Naira's pearlescent skin casting soft light in the dim space while Thomas applies his technician's pattern recognition to political corruption. It's not romantic in any conventional sense, just two people working together to fix things that are broken, whether those things are environmental controls or the systems of governance that are supposed to serve their people's interests. "You know," Thomas says after an hour of reviewing supply chain data, "when I signed up to be a maintenance technician, this is not what I thought the job would involve. Are you complaining? Just observing. Though I suppose helping you maintain the integrity of the peace treaty isn't that different from maintaining the integrity of the station's life support systems. Both involve finding leaks, patching problems, and keeping everything from catastrophically failing." Naira's skin brightens with colors he's learned to recognize as deep affection. "This is why I trust you, Thomas Rivera. You see everything, political conspiracies, diplomatic crises, cultural conflicts, as systems that can be repaired if someone applies careful attention and honest effort. It's a remarkable perspective. It's a technician's perspective. We're trained to believe everything can be fixed if you're patient enough. Not everything can be fixed." "No," Thomas agrees, "but more things than most people believe. You just have to be willing to actually try instead of accepting that broken is permanent." They continue working through data, finding patterns that suggest new corruption requiring investigation, their partnership having evolved into something neither can fully define but both recognize as essential. The maintenance technician and the diplomat, the human and the Valkyrie, fixing what's broken one problem at a time, proving that sometimes trust offered in vulnerable moments creates bonds stronger than any formal treaty, and that peace isn't maintained through rigid protocols, but through people willing to witness each other's truth with honesty, care, and patience to repair what war and corruption have damaged.